Blue Fire is a game you've probably never heard of. And that's a real shame, because it's actually a really good game that I once discovered buried deep in the trash piles of the Nintendo eShop. So I bought it, played it, and then immediately played it again, simply because it's that fun. But first, let me explain why. Blue Fire is a small game developed by Roby Studios. At its core, it's a 3D platformer, but one that borrows heavily from Souls-like games. You explore a large interconnected world that starts out fairly linear, but gradually opens up with shortcuts and secret paths that let you move quickly between areas. You search for stronger weapons, upgrade your character at statues that act as bonfires, and if you die, you have to retrieve your souls. On top of that, there are small dungeons that feel more inspired by The Legend of Zelda. The thing is, I'm not really a big fan of Souls games. The combat feels slow and overly methodical to me, the art style and lore doesn't really speak to me, and the core gameplay loop just isn't that exciting. At least for my taste. I completely understand why so many people love Dark Souls and its successors, it's just not my thing. What Blue Fire does differently though is that it's first and foremost a 3D platformer. That means the game is fast, fluid, and packed with movement options. Combat is usually made difficult by the environment rather than the enemies themselves, and in general, the real challenge isn't the enemies, but navigating this massive floating castle. Boss fights, on the other hand, are fairly simple and not particularly memorable. The lore still doesn't really interest me, since it mostly revolves around gods and similar themes. The art style is very minimalistic, but it works, and at times the game can actually look really beautiful. So yes, Blue Fire is a 3D platformer that takes a lot of ideas from Souls games and adapts them. But why is it so good? Well, because it's simply a really good 3D platformer. Throughout the game, you constantly unlock new upgrades and abilities. By the end, you can even have up to 3 jumps, 2 dashes, a spin attack, wall running, and even the ability to briefly run in midair. With the right spirits equipped, you can increase jump height, extend dashes, and strengthen your spin attack, allowing you to reach almost everywhere. Their platforming truly gets tested in the voids. Small isolated challenge sections set in nothingness. These voids can become real brain breakers, especially on hard mode, since there are almost no checkpoints and a single hit sends you back to the beginning. Another really cool feature is that you can create your own voids using their Void Maker. You can choose between different art styles and build some genuinely impressive levels. Since you can precisely control which abilities the player has, you can even design something like a Metroidvania style challenge. Even beyond that, the editor itself is surprisingly solid and honestly impressive to see in such a small, relatively unknown game. One last thing that absolutely deserves a mention is the soundtrack, which you can actually get for free when you buy the game on Steam. The music is genuinely great and helps certain moments really stick with you long after you finished playing. So now you have a pretty good idea of what Blue Fire is and what makes it special. If any of this sounds interesting to you, I definitely recommend giving it a try. After all, there's a reason it earned number 11 on my list of the top 15 games of all time.